Most British households have a biscuit tin that gets refilled automatically, the same brand bought week after week without much thought. Biscuits are one of those grocery items where brand loyalty runs deep and label reading essentially never happens. The packet looks familiar, the price seems reasonable, and the contents are assumed to be broadly what they have always been. That assumption is worth examining. Because biscuit formulations have changed significantly over decades, as manufacturers have replaced more expensive ingredients with cheaper alternatives, and the gap between what the packaging implies and what the ingredient list shows is wider than most consumers realize. Today I am going through 9 biscuit brands and products where the ingredient quality, additive profile, or the gap between marketing and formulation raises genuine concerns, being precise about what the actual issue is with each one, and finishing with 3 that are genuinely worth buying. Before getting into the brands, some context on 2 ingredients that appear throughout this review. Palm oil is used extensively in biscuit manufacturing because it is cheaper than butter, solid at room temperature, and gives products a consistent texture and long shelf life. The environmental concern with palm oil is well documented. Expansion of palm oil cultivation, particularly in Indonesia and Malaysia, has been directly associated with deforestation of tropical rainforest, habitat destruction, and biodiversity loss. Whether a specific palm oil source is certified sustainable varies, and the credibility of sustainability certifications in the palm oil industry has been the subject of ongoing scrutiny by environmental organizations. The ingredient itself is not unsafe to eat, but the environmental cost of producing it at industrial scale is a legitimate consideration. Refined sugar in biscuits is the second consistent theme. The glycemic response to refined sugar, the speed with which it raises blood glucose, and the subsequent drop that follows, is well established. For most healthy adults eating biscuits occasionally, this is a dietary consideration rather than a medical concern. For people managing blood glucose, type 2 diabetes, or pre-diabetic conditions, the sugar content of biscuits consumed regularly is more practically relevant. Starting with McVitie's Digestives. McVitie's Digestives are possibly the most purchased biscuit in Britain, and the brand trust attached to them is enormous. The name itself implies a functional benefit that was originally associated with their high brand content in the 19th century. Whether that functional implication remains accurate for the modern product is worth examining. McVitie's Digestives contain palm oil as a significant fat source alongside wholemeal wheat flour. The wholemeal flour content is genuine and provides more fiber than refined white flour alternatives. However, the sugar content is around 5 grams per biscuit, and a realistic serving of 3 or 4 biscuits brings the sugar contribution to 15 to 20 grams. The palm oil is not certified as sustainably sourced in a way that has been independently verified to the highest standards. The manufacturer makes sustainability commitments, but the credibility of those commitments in the palm oil industry is an ongoing discussion rather than a settled matter. For a product positioned as a healthier biscuit choice, the combination of palm oil and significant sugar content means the relative healthiness compared to other biscuits is primarily about the fiber content rather than any broader nutritional superiority. Then there is McVitie's Chocolate Digestive. The Chocolate Digestive is the same base product with a chocolate coating, but the coating changes the nutritional profile meaningfully. The chocolate layer is not made from high-quality chocolate. It is a chocolate-flavored compound coating using palm oil as the primary fat rather than cocoa butter. Genuine chocolate uses cocoa butter as the fat component. Compound chocolate uses a cheaper vegetable fat, typically palm oil, that produces a different melt behavior and flavor profile. The sugar content per biscuit increases to around 7 grams with the coating. The palm oil content is higher. The combined effect is a product where the healthy associations of wholemeal wheat from the digestive base are largely offset by the coating quality and sugar level. The taste difference between compound chocolate and real chocolate is detectable once you have eaten both side by side. Compound chocolate does not melt at body temperature the way cocoa butter does, which is why it leaves a slightly waxy coating in the mouth rather than dissolving cleanly. That characteristic texture is a direct indicator of the fat used. At number 3, Oreo Original. Oreos are manufactured by Mondelez International, one of the largest food conglomerates in the world. They are the best-selling biscuit globally and are sold in virtually every British supermarket. Each Oreo contains approximately 4.7 grams of sugar and uses palm oil as the primary fat in both the biscuit and the cream filling. The cream filling is not cream. It is a blend of refined vegetable fat, which is primarily palm oil and sugar. No dairy, no cream, nothing that would be described as cream in any other context. Indigenous communities in West Papua have publicly called for boycotts of Oreo, specifically over Mondelez's sourcing of palm oil from their ancestral territory, where forest clearance has been associated with displacement of local communities. This is a documented and reported concern rather than a general environmental claim. The serving size listed on Oreo packaging is 3 biscuits. Whether 3 biscuits represents how most people consume them is a reasonable question. The nutritional information per serving looks more modest than the experience of eating Oreos typically involves. Moving on to Fox's Party Rings. Party Rings are a brightly colored iced biscuit marketed primarily to children and associated with celebrations and parties. The concern here is specifically the artificial coloring profile. Party Rings contain multiple synthetic food dyes including tartrazine, quinoline yellow, sunset yellow, and ponceau 4R. These dyes are subject to a mandatory EU and UK warning label requirement that states this product may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children, required specifically because of research linking these dyes to hyperactivity in children with sensitivity. The warning is legally required and sometimes appears on the packaging, though its placement and size means many consumers do not notice it. The colorings serve no nutritional function. They exist to make the biscuits visually striking and appealing to children. Their presence in a product marketed directly at children, and specifically at children's parties where consumption is less regulated than at home, is a labeling and formulation choice worth naming clearly. At number 5, Maryland Cookies. Maryland Cookies are a widely sold chocolate chip cookie positioned as a family biscuit, available across all major UK supermarkets at a budget price point. They are among the most purchased cookies in the UK. The chocolate chips in Maryland Cookies are compound chocolate rather than real chocolate, using palm oil as the primary fat. The sugar content is approximately 8 grams per cookie. The ingredient list includes several additives, including flavor enhancers and emulsifiers that serve processing efficiency rather than nutritional benefit. The comparison between compound chocolate and real chocolate chips is directly relevant to the eating experience and to what you are consuming. Real chocolate chips use cocoa butter and cocoa solids. Compound chips use palm oil and cocoa powder. The nutritional profile is different, the melt behavior is different, and the environmental cost of the primary fat source is different. Maryland positions itself as a quality cookie choice at an accessible price. The ingredient list reflects a budget production priority rather than a quality one. Then there is McVitie's Jaffa Cakes. Jaffa Cakes occupy an unusual position in British food culture as the subject of the famous VAT tribunal that determined they are cakes rather than biscuits. They are universally treated as biscuits by consumers and purchased from the biscuit aisle. Each Jaffa cake contains approximately 7 grams of sugar. The orange layer, described as real orange on the packaging, is a sugar and glucose syrup gel with orange flavoring and coloring. The amount of real orange in the formulation is sufficient to support the labeling claim, but is not the primary ingredient of that layer. The chocolate coating is compound chocolate using palm oil rather than cocoa butter. The sponge base is a genuinely different component from the heavily processed biscuit bases in most products on this list and provides a slightly different nutritional context. But the overall sugar content and the compound chocolate coating mean that the nutritional picture is more complex than the light, low-fat positioning the brand has historically used in marketing. Jaffa Cakes are lower in fat than many biscuits because the sponge base contains less fat than a shortbread or chocolate digestive base. That lower fat content has been a marketing point. The sugar content and the quality of the chocolate layer tell a different part of the story. At number 7, Cadbury Fingers. Cadbury Fingers are chocolate-coated finger biscuits that benefit from the Cadbury brand association with chocolate quality. The concern is the same as with other compound-coated biscuits, but the Cadbury name creates a stronger quality expectation. The chocolate coating on Cadbury Fingers is not the same as Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate. It is a chocolate-flavored coating using vegetable fat, which includes palm oil. The actual Cadbury chocolate formula, which uses specific ratios of cocoa solids and milk solids, is not what coats these biscuits. The brand association implies a quality of chocolate that the compound coating does not deliver. The sugar content is around 6 grams per finger. The palm oil content in the coating adds to the environmental concerns consistent throughout this review. For consumers choosing Cadbury Fingers based on the expectation that Cadbury equals a particular quality of chocolate, understanding that the coating is a compound product rather than the brand's signature chocolate formulation is relevant to that purchasing decision. Then there is Hobnobs. Hobnobs have a stronger health reputation than most mainstream biscuits, largely because the oat content is visible and the texture is rougher and more rustic than a refined biscuit. The whole grain oat content is genuinely present and does provide fiber. The concern with Hobnobs is partly the same as with Digestives. Palm oil as the primary fat source alongside the oats, and sugar content of around 5 to 6 grams per biscuit. For the plain variety, the fiber content from oats does meaningfully slow sugar absorption compared to refined wheat biscuits. The chocolate hobnob adds the compound chocolate coating issue. The coating uses palm oil rather than cocoa butter. The sugar content increases, the environmental footprint increases, and the health positioning that comes with the oat content is partly offset by the coating. Hobnobs represent a genuine step up from fully refined white flour biscuits in terms of fiber content, and that distinction is real. They are not, however, a nutritionally straightforward choice, and the palm oil content and sugar level are meaningful considerations for anyone eating them regularly. And the ninth product worth discussing is own brand supermarket assorted biscuit selections. The large tins and boxes of assorted biscuits sold by Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, and Marks & Spencer represent a category rather than a single product, but they warrant inclusion because they are one of the most purchased biscuit formats in Britain, particularly during the autumn and winter gifting season. The assortment model means consumers are exposed to a broader range of biscuit types than they might choose individually, and portion control is more difficult when variety creates the impression that each biscuit type is a new and modest serving. Independent analysis of own brand assorted tins consistently finds that the majority of varieties across all major retailers use palm oil as the primary fat source, compound chocolate coatings, and artificial flavorings in the flavored cream fillings. The value tier assorted tins also use artificial colorings in several varieties. The ingredient quality across the range reflects production at the lowest cost point, compatible with meeting minimum food standards rather than any standard above that floor. 3 alternatives are genuinely worth recommending. Nairn's oat biscuits use whole grain oats as the primary ingredient, with a short, recognizable ingredient list and no palm oil. The fat source is sunflower oil or rapeseed oil. No artificial colorings, no artificial flavorings, no compound chocolate coating. The fiber content from the whole grain oats is meaningful and produces a genuinely different blood glucose response compared to refined biscuits. Available in most major UK supermarkets at a price comparable to mainstream brands. This is a biscuit where the ingredient list matches the healthy positioning rather than contradicting it. Nairn's stem ginger oat biscuits extend the same formulation with real stem ginger, an ingredient with documented anti-inflammatory properties and genuine flavor, as distinct from ginger flavoring used in cheaper alternatives. The ingredient list remains short: no palm oil, no artificial additives, available widely and not meaningfully more expensive than equivalent mainstream products. For anyone wanting a genuinely premium biscuit with quality ingredients and transparent sourcing, artisan biscuits from brands including Duchy Organic, Belvoir Farm, and Thomas J. Fudge's use real butter rather than palm oil, natural flavorings, and short ingredient lists that accurately represent the product. The sugar content is not lower than mainstream alternatives in most cases, but the fat quality is genuinely different. Real butter produces a different texture, a cleaner flavor, and a melt behavior that is noticeably superior to palm oil. The production scale is smaller, the sourcing is more transparent, and the price reflects genuine ingredient quality rather than marketing spend. The practical guidance for the biscuit aisle is straightforward and takes under a minute to apply. Look at the fat source. If palm oil or vegetable oil without specification is listed ahead of, or instead of butter, the biscuit uses the cheapest available fat. This affects both the eating quality and the environmental footprint. Look at the chocolate coating on any chocolate biscuit. If the coating lists vegetable fat rather than cocoa butter as the primary fat, it is compound chocolate rather than real chocolate. The eating experience and the ingredient quality are different from what the word chocolate implies. Look at artificial colorings. Their presence in a biscuit indicates a manufacturer prioritizing visual appeal over clean labeling. They have no nutritional function and are associated with adverse reactions in sensitive individuals. Count the ingredients. A biscuit with more than 12 or 15 ingredients contains additives serving the manufacturer's production needs rather than your nutritional requirements. The sugar content per biscuit is worth checking rather than per serving, because serving sizes on biscuit packaging frequently do not reflect how people actually eat them. Scoozed to Truthcart UK for more honest product analysis. No affiliate arrangements, no sponsored conclusions, just the ingredient reading that most brands are counting on you not doing.